Hey guys, just wanted to take a few moments to talk about a couple things before we dive into today's episode and the series as a whole. When I first started this podcast series with the class of 2010 from Western Alamance, I never imagined it had the potential to become something meaningful. While recording and wrapping up the conversations, we did lose two members of our Western Alamance class, Jonathan Swarsigan and Jenny Strickland. I did have the pleasure of having Jenny on the podcast before her passing, and I'm grateful her story has the potential to live on in this space. Her episode will be released at a more appropriate time at a later date. This project is more than looking back. It's about recognizing how fleeting time can be, appreciating the people who've shaped our lives, and not taking a single moment for granted. So I implore you, if there's someone you've been meaning to call, catch up with, don't wait. Reach out, say the thing. You never know when it might be your last chance. So this one's for Jenny, Jonathan, and everyone else. Thanks. Welcome to the Cooler Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Smiley. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. If you're not so new, welcome back. This is always the cool stories with the coolest people. It's the full culmination. Today, we are discussing the high school reunion. Everyone dreads it. Some people love to do it. It's been 15 years since I graduated, so I had the crazy idea to reach out to my class. Today's guest is a senior superlative from the class of 2010, Western Alamance. He was the senior superlative for most original laugh. He also played lacrosse with me. Today, I'm talking to Kirby McSherry. How are you doing, Kirby?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing solid. So, when you hear 15 years since graduation, what's the first thought that drops into you?
It sounds like a lot longer than it feels. Like it doesn't feel like 15 years was that long ago.
Has there been a lot that's happened? I mean, obviously a lot's happened. It's basically been a lifetime between we were 18 and it's 15 years later. What do you think's the standout moments or any standout moments for you in the past 15 years?
Probably obviously marriage. That was a big one for me. Going on 8 years now. My wife Meredith, and different jobs, school, stuff like that. I don't know. Bought a house a few years ago. Moved back to Burlington. That was one of those kind of full circle things when, especially after graduating, everybody, and I'm sure you remember this very well, is everybody's like, "Oh, I can't wait to get out of Burlington or go into the next thing." And I did that for a little while, lived in a few different places, and wound up back here about 5 years ago.
Okay. If there's funny thing, I was trying to go through my memory bank with everything. You rocked a App State sweatshirt or shirt probably once a week.
Almost,
did that go straight into that's going to be you're rocking it now?
yeah, nothing changed. So I actually I went to App, right after high school. Unfortunately, I had some health issues and had to take a semester off and didn't end up finishing my degree at that time. But then a few years later, I went to Alamance Community College here in Graham as well and got my culinary degree. And then just a little over a year and a half ago, I decided to go back to school. And now I'm currently in school through App online, finishing my bachelor's degree.
Oh,
So
nice. Okay.
get 2 rounds of it.
It's all the more football games you get to go to.
Exactly. Yeah.
How are they? So I haven't followed. I'll be honest. The one app game, because when I moved down here, I'm from Ohio, obviously.
Yeah.
The first game I remember on TV, it was on Big Ten Network, was that app Michigan game, and it was
Yeah.
so dope. I don't know, because obviously we hate Michigan,
Yeah.
and ever since then I was like, all right, app's a football school. Are they still a dominant football school? Like as far as
Well,
environment?
environment, yes. Ever since then, that was the big game that kind of lit the name up and sparked a lot of conversation around them. And then they went on to win, I think like 3 or 4 national championships. Got moved up a couple of rungs, and now they're still good, but they're playing against bigger and better schools now, so it's not like the crushing seasons that were happening during that time. But yeah, the environment's huge. Was it 2 years ago? The game day was in Boone,
Oh, that's right.
and yeah, we got lucky enough to go up there for that weekend, and that was insane. So yeah, it's still a good place to go for football.
Was that a Pat McAfee game day or no?
Uh, I don't know if Pat McAfee was there or not. I know Luke Combs was there.
Okay.
So that was a big deal, but I can't remember if he was there or not.
Yeah, I forget. You always keep forgetting. We got like legendary people all around North
Oh
Carolina.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Do you have, so like going back into high school, do you have like like core memory of just nonsense that happened? Either it's in school or you and your friends out of school, anything that just pops out to you?
Depends on what you mean by nonsense. Like there was some absolutely, senior year I think probably sticks out the most to me, just because it was, uh, it's the time that everybody kind of comes back together and remembers that we're all just kids going to school. There were definitely some parties that we went to that like everyone would show up to, and it didn't matter who you were. That night we were all friends, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's kind of stuff that stuck with me the most.
Do you remember the deer
In that went through the school,
that went through the school?
I do. I don't think I was in that building when it happened, but I remember seeing the glass busted out.
I, it's funny. I tell there's like weird things I remember. That's one of them, and they've stacked up enough where I'm like, you could make like a weird, like one-off, like
Oh
weird
yeah,
show about it. But I remember the video. I remember the video from the point of
yeah,
view because it was a freshman class. You just see this deer trying to get through the door, and then I remember the janitor, Mr. Neal, I think that was his name.
yeah.
I remember him like cursing up a storm because he had to just clean up this blood all
Oh
over
yeah,
all over the hallway.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
the perks of having an outdoor school.
Yeah, I would say I loved where our school was located. 'Cause, it was just 2 lane roads in every direction. And yeah, and then deers wind up in classrooms.
Do you still hang out with anybody? Or you still meet up with anybody from the class?
Um, there's probably like a small handful of people I still see regularly. Especially moving back to Burlington, there's some friends that I see on the weekends. And then yeah, me and Jordan Stovall were always good friends.
Okay.
Still speak with him on a regular basis. He lives in Nightdale, I think now, but I still keep in touch with him pretty well. And then it's funny, like since moving back to Burlington, I thought like, oh man, I'm gonna run into people from high school all the time.
Yeah.
I go to the grocery store every day. I go get gas. Like I go out to eat, whatever the case is. Rarely do I see anybody I know, which is not always a bad thing. But I just thought like, when we were in high school, it felt like Burlington was such a small town, but it's not.
Yeah, it's definitely exploded. I still hang out with some of my friends, like Kelly Traywig,
Mhm.
Maple, and Heath, and everybody. But it's like I make an effort. We make an effort to go hang out. But it's gotten
Yeah,
so big in this area. I tell people all the time we're in this like weird track where like what was a small town is going to end up being like a hyper metropolitan area.
Oh, for sure.
because there's just so much growth around here.
I would say it's
Um,
kind of terrifying in that manner. Like we were really lucky to buy a house right before the like influx of housing prices going insane. And we're in a decent neighborhood. We're half mile from my mom.
oh, nice.
Like super nice place to be, but like I couldn't imagine trying to buy the same house over right now.
What's your biggest surprise about the area? Like if you were to pinpoint like a store or like just what we have, and just, if you told yourself 15 years, you'd be like, what the hell?
Um, I'm trying to think of specific places. I think there's a lot more community here than we thought there were when we were younger. I was gonna mention because I know that you used to go to the gym. Did you used to go to CrossFit Simplicity at some point, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Or
I've been like an in and out because there's
okay,
multiple CrossFit gyms, but they all come from like the same genesis. But yeah, I know
yeah,
Daniel and all them.
yeah. I would say I joined that gym a little over 6.5 months ago or so now, and like there's been in a lot of gyms there's always a support group, but I've found specifically there like it's a tight knit group. The people there like care about you and your health and like what you're doing, and that's been like a place for me to go and meet new people and get my workout in, but like have a sense of community as well.
Yeah. Hey, were you going into CrossFit? So like obviously you played lacrosse in high school. Were you always like a kind of exercise sports person, or is that something then you lost and then you got back again, or how did that pathway
Probably
go?
Probably lost and got back again. Like in high school, I played lacrosse. I was not like starter by any means,
Right there with you.
but I enjoyed the sport and just having something to do in the afternoons and stuff like that. And then college years dropped off, and then I don't know. I'd say probably like 5 years ago, I started getting back into a gym, but really hadn't put that like first and foremost into this past year.
Hmm.
And now I think I'm in better shape than I probably was in high school, honestly.
Yeah. I never like lifted a weight until after I think I was like 21 when I like joined CrossFit, and I was like didn't know what a hell a barbell was, and
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, you're when you're the skinny kid in high school and then you get out and then you gain all the weight and you're like, what the hell is happening?
yeah, I know that feeling all too well.
Is there a hobby that you've streamlined all the way through since like even your childhood? Doesn't even have to be high school.
Um, not. I'm trying to think of specific hobbies. Food became like a big part of my life. 10, 15, 10, 12 years ago when I
Okay.
started working in restaurants and getting my culinary degree. And now that's more of like a passion thing than it is a work thing for me. I still work in the food industry, but not like restaurant style work anymore. um but yeah, I think cooking on the weekends, cooking for people, friends and family, like that's always been something I've enjoyed.
Okay. So do you can you never did any like culinary in high school or anything like that?
No, my first like experience was senior year. I took Foods One as just like an
Yeah.
elective to put something on the books. And I did exceptionally well at it because I was a senior in a freshman class and I knew how to work a stove. And it's all simple stuff, but I didn't even think about it then as like being a possible career path by any means. But yeah, I'd say that's probably my, other than like my parents growing up and cooking around me, like that was
Mhm.
my first food experience that was like outside of the home kind of thing.
Okay. So then what was the almost like nexus point that like got you into like that trajectory?
When I was in college, the first time I had a catering job during the summer
Okay.
that paid really well. Got to do these super extravagant, anywhere from $50 people dinner parties to 200 people weddings, and like exceptional food at like a high end level, and really enjoyed that. And then when I came home, I kind of bounced around from like some manufacturing jobs and some other stuff, and just nothing was clicking. And I was like, well, I enjoyed that then. Maybe I still enjoy it now. And I applied for a restaurant. At the time, we were in Roxborough, and they offered me a job. Ended up working there for almost 2 years. And like within that first year, I was like, if this is something I'm going to do, I want to take it seriously. And that's when I decided to go to culinary school.
Gotcha. Okay. So then you're still doing food then right now?
Yeah. So now I work for a nut butter company, Big Spoon Roasters. We're out of Hillsboro,
Okay.
and we make something like 20 odd different flavors or varieties of almond butter, peanut butters, cashew butters. Some of our top varieties are pistachio crunch, almond butter, maple cinnamon peanut butter. So like really high quality, just tasty nut butters that you wouldn't typically see on the shelf.
Okay. Gotcha. So then kind of going back into like your high school mind, right? So I guess I'm going to paint this picture right now because I was going through the yearbook and the styles were crazy, the sports were
Oh,
nuts.
for sure.
What was on your playlist? What was the movies you were watching?
There was definitely senior year. I remember specifically Lil Wayne's like not like his album. He had the album, but then he had the mixtape that he came out with like either our junior or senior year. There was a lot of old punk rock that I listen to nowadays, and I'm like, oh man, this was good stuff back then. And then I couldn't even tell you what movies were coming out during that time. I want
We
to say
had we had Avatar that just came
yeah,
out. I know that blew up everybody. Clash of the Titans.
I'm
I had a
thinking
list of these.
Transformers, but I think the first one was a little bit older than that even. But
It still counts. So we were in high school. That was 2007. We got the first Iron Man in 2008, and then Dark Knight was 2008.
yeah, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. It's funny. Like I remember walking out of the movie theater. That was 2008 because that was again the first time I moved here, and I saw Iron Man for the first time. Movie theater's not there anymore.
Yeah,
It's now like pots and plants or whatever it is.
yeah,
And I just remember being so pumped. But then like I remember walking out, and then it was just like it was so dead on Church Street. And I was like, "What?
oh yeah.
This was a hype movie, and it's it's dead over here."
Nobody's here.
No. And then ironically now it's popping all the time
Yeah.
on Church Street. You can't even leave anywhere.
Oh yeah. It's funny.
um,
I was thinking of when you were talking about looking back to the yearbook. Um, one of those like full circle moments. If you go into Blue Ribbon now, our senior class is the pictures on the walls now.
what?
Yeah, so I don't know if you've been in there lately. Last time I went, I like by happen chance sat down and got to looking at, because they've always had like senior classes from like the 60s and the 80s and stuff like that. And growing up, I was like, oh man, look at all these old pictures. We're the old pictures now. Like I
That's crazy.
I saw my face on the wall and I was very sad.
Is it's the photo where they got everybody on the bleachers? That one?
No, it's like all of the individual senior photos where everybody's like in their like little fake
What?
tux
Oh
thing.
my God. I'm gonna have to go to, you said it's a Blue Ribbon?
Yeah.
They got everybody?
I think so. They're spread out along the wall, but I saw
Nuts.
my section.
I would like to sit in the Western Alamance 2010
Yeah.
section.
Yeah.
It's funny, like you pan around the restaurant and everybody's like assigned by class.
Yeah. I'm only sitting in Western section.
That's crazy. So then let's say you have that music now. How has that changed since I know you said some of the music we had was bangers. Like I enjoy Nickelback now. Where are you leaning? Have you changed any playlist now, or are you just leaning full nostalgia?
It's a little depressing these days because I don't like a lot of new music. There's definitely a lot more like folk country on my playlist these days. A little less rap. There's just,
You've
and I
transformed.
still,
Your
I still
cocoon is
enjoy
finished.
good old rap, our old rap, but like the whatever's on the radio these days, I couldn't tell you most of the new songs that are out, but
It's funny. I've definitely my brother's 20, he's like 25, but he's like Gen Z. So I've always like had like a lower tier for like what's in music. But I just posted today. It's that meme. Do you know Chapel Roan?
Pink Pony Club, I believe.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's a banger. Yeah.
See, that's the music that it's like I'll pop on that, or actually right now I'm on like a weird cycle with my Spotify. I need to break it. It literally was like Kanye West last year, Tame Impala, and then like now this year it's literally like Sabrina Carpenter,
Yeah.
Chapel Roan, and then Billie Eilish.
Oh, yeah.
I need to change something. I mean, they're all bops, but
They're all bops.
I need to find something new. If you were to like take, you don't have to specify obviously like any insecurity, but if you were to like look at where you were mentally you just graduated, Kayla McCloskey just said throw that cap. And I say this, I literally just watched the video of her giving the speech. It's still on YouTube. It's kind of nuts.
Oh, wow.
She gives the speech. What do you have any advice to yourself?
Part of me wants to say like take life more seriously, but at the same time, like live it to the fullest because, the older I've gotten, the more serious my life has gotten. Like it's, every day it was a struggle for me to get in here and be sitting down at 7 o'clock. And whereas 15 years ago, who knows what I was doing at 7 o'clock on Wednesday? Probably not much, but like, there's definitely a seriousness to life. But at the same time, like you only get one. So like absolutely live it as best you can. And while you're young and nothing matters, by all means, go for it.
Yeah. Do you like if we were to flip it and we go 15 years in the future, do you have the same message or like where do you see yourself? This isn't an job interview, but like, do you have the same message for that, Kirby?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a balance to it. There's stuff that I feel like, I'm missing out on. Going back to school in my 30s is not easy by any means, and there's a lot of stuff that I have to say no to because I've got to take care of stuff. And I'm like, man, which was more important, my classwork or seeing these people that I haven't seen for a while or something like that. And sometimes I choose seeing people, friends and family, because that's important. And the classwork will be there when I get back. But there's, I think the emphasis on the quality time with people is lost these days, and our phones and our busy lives that we make busy for no apparent reason other than the person beside me is busy, so I need to be busy too, kind of thing.
Yeah. I remember I saw a graph a couple weeks ago, and it literally had like the time you spend with your family going down as you age, and basically like time you spend with like coworkers, and it was just a weird age graph going from like 0 to 60, and literally the hotbed of connections were your 30s and 40s. Yeah. After that, they completely decline, skyrocket, like they go down, like skyrocket with the opposite. It literally tanks. Yeah. And then we end up like majority of us statistically end up with nobody. It's just a sad thought, but it's kind of crazy when you think about it. So part of it, like I said, I think I mentioned this before. It's like that was part of the genesis of like this podcast is like right now we still have some of these memories. 15 years is still a long time ago. Like I literally was racking my brain. I was like, and was I in a class with Kirby? What was what class was that? But like that 30 to 40 mark is like that sweet spot of like, we're wise enough, but we're also, we have more thought that we can put into things,
Mm.
and especially like building that connection is like a perfect genesis there.
Yeah, I would say I feel like I've really dove into the connection part of life recently. I try to make time for the important friends, and all friends are important, but I think like 15 years later, like if we're still in contact with even a small group of people from high school, like that's a big deal, because I mean, we were friends with some of those people for 15 years ahead of that. So I've got
Mm-hmm.
friends that I've had for 30 some years, and that's I'm hopeful to still be talking to those people in another 15 and 30 years. So I think that, and then it's never too late to make new connections, joining a gym, getting into your community kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
I've made some great friends over the past few years, that keep me engaged and I'm excited about. So I think that's one of the biggest things about life in general.
Yeah. I would definitely say the building the connections is huge. Yeah. Do you, I was going to segue into two different questions. I'm going to start with like the funnier one. Do you feel like an adult at
No,
33?
never. I tell people at work, like I manage a small group of people now, and some of them are older than me. Most of them are in the mid 20s, late 20s kind of thing. And I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, don't, like, you're not young anymore, but you're not old either. I was like, don't grow up. Like, it sucks,
Yeah.
when you got to start planning your own doctor's appointments and keeping up with that stuff and paying bills, and your car breaks down, you got to figure out how to fix that, and just. But I was like, there's stuff that I do, or just financial decisions I make, and I'm like, I'm not old enough to make these decisions. But in my brain, I don't feel any older than 18, with just a slightly more wisdom. But no, I guess a buddy of mine at work, he's got 5 or 6 years on me, and like we're basically like we could be sitting in the back of a high school class, like cracking the same jokes, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Some stuff doesn't change.
Yeah. I think I've talked about this with a couple people. I think for me, it stopped at like 26, and it's just been the same brain. Like I don't feel like I did when I was like 21. That's a younger body. That's more
Right.
than
Yeah.
26 is where I've stopped mentally.
Yeah. Mentally, that's probably where we are. You got to start thinking about what you eat and how you move, and are you going to throw your back out today? Which I don't think we're quite there yet, but we're close.
We're close. Yeah. When you wake up and those knees are cracking.
Oh yeah.
The second segue question, because you mentioned technology, what we're kind of in like sci-fi land. Like if you told me, you, any of our class, the same class that our teachers were telling us, put away your phones, you won't need that in life. When are you going to have a calculator on you?
Right.
Literally have it all the time. And now we have like artificial intelligence. Like where where mentally have you grasped that at any like amount? Does it stress you out? Where are you at with that?
I try not to let it stress me out. I know
All right.
people that like will just deep dive on the internet and then like just wake up stressed. I'm like, you're stressed about all the wrong things. But maybe they're not. They might know something I don't know. But yeah, I remember in middle school, listening to a portable CD player that skipped every time you took a step with it, and um, the iPod before the iPhone was a huge thing. Like just having that much music in your pocket, you're like, man, this is insane.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, now you get anxiety if you don't text somebody back in a timely manner. Now you get, you feel like, oh, I didn't post about my anniversary, or wish my wife a happy birthday on Facebook, and I'm like, that doesn't matter. Like I woke up beside my wife. I wished her happy birthday this morning.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to get the gratification of the high school reunion on Facebook.
I definitely what's funny is I actually think I see it a lot more with like maybe our age group. We're almost immune to a lot of like the social media. You still have some like people who are addicted, obviously,
Yeah.
but like I can speak for myself. Like we lived through Facebook, where in high school, I think it was like 2009 is when Facebook started, and you're posting like literally at lacrosse practice, and it's like that's your status. And then you get like 2 likes, and then you get to Instagram, and then that blows up, and you get
Yeah.
likes with that. And it's gotten to a point now where I could give two shits if anybody likes my status. It's because
Yeah.
maybe I'm dopamined out.
Well, and I think and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the boomers like took Facebook and are still using it like we did when we were in high school. And like,
Yes.
the older generation, they're like at Applebee's, or, just had a miserable experience at the grocery store. Let me tell you about it. And yeah,
Diane at the deli sucks. It's like, all right.
yeah. Yeah, I would say I still have an active Facebook, but I'm like the least active person on Facebook. And then I like look at Instagram, and I've probably learned more stupid things on Instagram than I ever thought I would. But then there's like some random facts on there, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Do you this is an algorithm question. Do you get hit with like brain rot, or do you know what that term means?
I think like 85% of my brain rot, like it's cute dog videos because I have a dog, and then it's like food videos, and then the rest of it is just trash.
Yeah.
Funny comedians on whatever platform they're on.
Do you do anything? And so it's funny because I feel like we've reached like there's like a little bit of self-discovery when we're basically the babies of the internet. We were there before things went viral and everything. Do you have like a rule for yourself with social media, even if you don't practice it like regularly, but it's something that you like mentally prepare yourself to go in with this?
What do you mean by rule for?
So for me, it's like don't check it in the morning, otherwise I'm just gonna doom loop. Or don't check it at night, or don't engage. Like if anyone like comments bullshit, like I remember, again, it's like you said, it's like the boomers have done what we used to do. Like someone would say some bullshit, you immediately comment. It's like I
Yeah.
just let that shit swipe. Who cares?
Yeah, I don't I probably need to set more ground rules for myself, especially when I've got like deadlines and schoolwork and stuff that I need to take care of, because I'm guilty of a good doom scroll. Um,
We all
but it's hard not to be. There's just the stuff's funny and it keeps going. But yeah, I would say I don't post enough to get reactions out of people. I get likes and a few here and there. I wish I posted something that was stress somebody out enough that they're like, "Hey, you suck," and I'm like, "Okay, that's fine."
That's an interesting way to. I wish I had some.
Yeah. I don't think I'm posting anything that's that interesting. It's just my dog.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like we still have our pets that we can always
Yeah,
post about. That's a guarantee 3 likes because you at least get your parents and then your siblings maybe. Like that's
oh
how.
yeah. People love a good dog photo, and then you post a picture of yourself and you get nothing.
Yeah. Well, Kirby, this has been, like I said, I wanted to keep it short and sweet, and maybe in like 15 years, we'll run this back and see if anything's changed.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to plug or anything that you're doing right now? Anyone want to shout?
Um, I think I've hit them all. If you're looking for nut butter, Big Spoon Roasters. If you're looking for a gym, CrossFit Simplicity. If you're looking for a school, App State.
Okay.
Obviously. And if you got kids and they're not in Western Alamance District, I guess you're missing out.
What's funny, I think they moved them. I think Williams is now the flagship school. Western is 100% just the country farm school again.
That's okay.
All is good in nature.
Yeah.
Well, Kirby, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to do this. I know, like I said, I know when I send these out, it's like, who the f to talk about high school?
Yeah, I look forward to to hearing this one back, and then whoever else you got lined up. I'm trying to think of all the senior superlatives, and there was definitely some good ones.
Perfect. Well, I'm gonna head on out of here, guys. If you enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to hit up everything as far as the socials, as far as the everything that is Cooler Conversations. We're on Instagram, Facebook. I know we just talked shit about Facebook. And then we got the YouTube. This one will hopefully be on YouTube. And if you have any recommendations for future series, let's hit them up. Later.